Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the full Licensing Committee. Item 1 on this morning's agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillors Filer, Councillor Matthews and Councillor Richardson, and there are no substitutes, Chair.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Do any members this morning have any declarations of interest to record? No, thank you. Item 4, confirmation of minutes. To confirm the following sets of minutes as an accurate record for the chair to sign. The Licensing Committee of the 14th of September 23, the Licensing Subcommittees of the 13th and 28th of September, 11th and 26th of October 2023, subject to the following corrections. The Licensing Committee Clause 24 forward plan, the first bullet point should review of pricing mechanism for licensed vehicles should in fact be referenced to the as being likely to be brought before the committee was not this item, but an item on fares. And for licensing subcommittee, 28th of September, the list of members present should read Councillor Williams instead of Councillor Flagg. So if members are happy, I will sign those. Thank you. Item 5, public issues. There are no formal public questions or statements or petitions received as of today's date. Item 6, update on provision of position of taxi ranks. Just to confirm. At the Licensing Committee on the 9th of March 2023, members asked for an update on the audit of all taxi ranks in the BCP area, which had been completed by the licensing team and taxi trade jointly. Members requested the following: to review the progress of highways in programming the necessary works summarised in the report of the 9th of March 2023, to receive a response from the Director of Infrastructure to provide the proposed schedule of works, and to receive a response from the Director of Infrastructure on the number of penalty charge notices issued over the past 12 months as a result of parking of non-licensed vehicles on taxi ranks. Can I ask Nenanka to take us through the report, please?
Thank you, stole my thunder a bit there. I was like, I can usually read that bit.
Sorry.
That's okay, no worries. So everyone knows what the report was about. Previously in March, we brought a report to the previous committee that set out sort of what we had identified in an audit that took place with taxi trade representatives of taxi ranks within the area, and primarily it just showed that there were quite a few ranks where the markings were gone, were incorrect, the signage was inconsistent following the merge of BCP, so it's sort of a little bit confusing and muddled. At that previous committee hearing, members asked for a report from the highways team basically on what was happening, and so we chased that up. So taxi ranks are not provided as a licensing function. They are provided by way of traffic regulation orders through our highways team. So it's not within the control of myself and my team, the provision or maintenance of those ranks. So basically following the team meeting, the committee meeting, we did follow up with our highways colleagues. They don't have, and they weren't able to provide a schedule of works to ranks. So it's just not how they work. But what we did was we provided them with quite a detailed list of what we'd found. And they've been working through that. And they've confirmed to me that they have a technician who has been gone around to all the ranks in Bournemouth now. It's been completed in Bournemouth, and the work has all been scheduled through third parties to sort out the signage and the lines as needed. as identified by us, and they're working through Poole and then Christchurch over the coming weeks. So it is work in hand. And the other aspect of it was the penalty charge notices for people that are parking non-licensed vehicles on ranks. And in a 12-month period, October to October, they'd issued 939 penalty charge notices to people. You know, that was asked for by the committee at the time, because our taxi trade were actually in that committee, because they were here for another matter, and they'd mentioned that, you know, it can be quite frustrating when you're a licence holder trying to park and there's somebody already parked there that's not licensed, and they felt that they don't see enforcement, although they do report it. So this actually does show that enforcement does go ahead, but it's one of those things you don't necessarily see it, but it is happening behind the scenes. So that's really the content of the report for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nananka. Members, the recommendation is for us to consider the information provided, but I'm happy to open up to the floor for any questions or comments. Councillor Chapman.
Just a quick question on the PTNs. Do we know how many of those are private cars parking in the ranks, and how many of those PTNs are, because it's only supposed to be the Hackney carriages that are using the ranks, isn't it? How many of those PTNs have been private hires using the ranks?
It wasn't broken down. It's just people that should not have been parking there.
Councillor Farquhar.
Thank you, Chair. My question also relates to the penalty charge notices, and it's very useful, and I do appreciate the work that's gone into identifying to the trade that enforcement is happening. But I always like to drill a little bit more into the PCNs. I know it's not necessarily the officer's prerogative or what we asked for, but would it be possible that the number of those fines were actually upheld and paid, and also where that money went? Because obviously we have an exercise whereby we have to pay subcontractors to update our taxi ranks and so on and so forth, for the signage and the like. Then my understanding is that money should be ring fenced for that particular role. We as a council face a severe deficit. Consequently, every penny which could actually be ring fenced to pay for money such as the maintenance and the upkeep, or even the improvement of taxi ranks, should be ring fenced if it comes from fixed penalty notices that are actually charged and collected within taxi ranks. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. Linda, did you wish to comment on the situation regarding ring fencing?
I don't know the exact answer to that. I should imagine any charges raised by penalty charge notice cumulatively would go back into that department's budget, and it would be used for the work they do. I wouldn't expect there to be I wouldn't expect it to be ring fenced to the ones that have been raised in taxi ranks to be just specifically used on taxi ranks. I mean, we can ask those questions for you, certainly, and see what transport team have got to say, but I can't say any more than that.
Thank you, Chair. I do really appreciate that response, and I think it is beholden upon us all to actually look at ways that we can actually live within our budget. And if fixed penalty notices are getting paid or not getting pursued to get paid, then it gives a clear reason why we're actually fining, beyond the fact that vehicles should not be parked in a Hackney taxi rank. That shouldn't be there, but it makes sense to me to actually be quite clear that money which is gained from those fines will actually go into maintaining and enforcing those ranks in the future. And that sends a very clear message to our taxi trade that we are actually enforcing and we are actually investing in the taxi ranks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. Are members happy then that we ask the officers just to come back with a bit of information with regards to how the funds are managed? Are members happy to just receive that information by email? Yeah,
Please.
thank you.
Happy to follow that up and find out. Yes.
Thanks very much. So are members content then that we note the report? Thank you. Moving on then to item 7. Item 7, to agree a draft pleasure boat and boat person policy for public consultation. The licensing of pleasure boats and boat person licenses is currently outside the scope of any policy. The draft policy as presented today will provide a clear framework for the determination of any applications. Can I ask Nananka to introduce the report, please?
Thank you. Yes, as you said, I will just clarify, I've used the term boat person. The legislation is quite antiquated and it refers to boatmen and pleasure boatmen and pleasuremen, which is always a bit dodgy. For just for inclusion's sake, I've just changed it, and I've noted when I did a bit of research that a lot of local authorities have changed it to boat person. So I hope I've changed everything to boat person, but if anyone has picked up anything, please let me know, because you know, yes, I'm not infallible. So this is the first BCP draft policy. I couldn't find a policy from our legacy authorities. Pleasure boats and boat person licenses were previously issued in Poole and Christchurch only, because they're the two areas with coastal water areas only. And I think we need to be clarified that this relates to coastal water pleasure boats and pleasure boats that take up to and no more than 12 passengers. So that it's the small ones that goes from sort of Poole Harbour up through to Wareham Quay and back again. Nothing that goes out into the sea over to Swanage or anything. They're outside of the remit of this policy. So it's the smaller vessels. We've only got 3 boat persons, and you go, oh, but how can you have 3 boat persons when you've got 19 Class B boats that they would be driving? But bosuns generally go on more than one type of vessel. So if you're driving one of those other bigger boats with more than 12 people that do come out into the water and go around to Bournemouth Pier or go down to Swanage Pier, they would have a lot more qualifications, formal qualifications issued, and they're regulated by the Marine Coastal Agency, and those people can also bosun a Class C boat without having to. So we just issue licenses to boat persons who haven't got the formal qualification, but they meet a standard, as it were, that has been set with regards to consultation with standards that have been sort of set across the country, and there's sort of some recognised codes of practice out there. So we've gone through over the last sort of few years. I will say that the people that are administering it now never administered it in either of the 2 legacy authorities. So we sort of we inherited this service that none of us had any knowledge of. So we sort of cobbled together what was being done previously that we'd been left with, and then we've obviously been speaking to the harbour master just to try to make sure our knowledge is up to par, and we're doing what they recommend. It's very interesting because probably not interesting, but it's for me. Poole has got a formal harbour master on the quay, but there isn't a similar harbour master at Christchurch. So that the boats out of Christchurch don't seem to be quite as not well regulated, but they're not overseen by this sort of the harbour master aspect of it. They're looked at by boat inspectors. I'm sure they're obviously fully qualified and everything, but it's just slightly different sort of oversight of it. So we've been making sure that we're sort of trying to engage and liaise with everybody necessary, so that there is a harmonised process across BCP for it. So I don't intend to go through the draft policy bit line by line. I'm sure everyone's hopefully has had a look. If there's anything that you want me to talk about, I will try. The main officer that delivers it, unfortunately, she's gone off to Romania today to do a Transylvania Dracula tour. She'd rather do that than be here. I'm saying nothing, but obviously I'll try to provide as much answer as I can once this draft has been approved or amended, it will then go out to public consultation. And we will be including obviously all our stakeholders, so everyone that holds a licence, the harbour masters, the boat inspectors, to make sure that it's a really robust policy, get their feedback, and then it will come back to you with all of that consultation feedback, obviously amended, and then it would get ratified, I presume. That's all the process.
Thank you, Nananka. Members, the recommendation is to consider the policy, make any necessary amendments and agree a 6-week public consultation. Are there any questions from members with regards to the report that's been, the policy that's been presented? Councillor Chapman-Law.
Yeah, just a quick question. So these people that aren't MCA, what qualification do they have? Because I couldn't see it in the report. What is the minimum qualification that's required?
So they've got to have a evidence of a relevant vessel handling certificate, and they've got to demonstrate a full knowledge of the statutory rules and bylaws, and they've got to have a certificate that's endorsed by the harbour master. So basically, it's like the harbour master makes sure that their knowledge and skills are up to date, and they stamp it and say yes, we're happy that they've fully aware of all the rules and regulations before we would then issue them with a certificate.
Through you, Chair. Just for clarity, I think it might be nice to have, like, day skipper or whatever it is, the minimum actually stated.
I don't think it's a formal qualification. That's why what we say here is applicants will have the full knowledge of all statutory rules, regulations and bylaws applicable to navigate the waters is required. New applicants must therefore be endorsed by the harbour master to confirm that the applicant has fulfilled the requirements of the harbour master commissioners to operate safely. So we won't issue them with anything until the harbour master has clarified that he has their own rules that they meet. Again, we're not an expert in any of that maritime stuff, so it's not for me to say that you need to have this minimum or that minimum. The harbour master obviously has got a minimum standard for this type of thing. It's his knowledge, his skills. So we take an endorsed certificate from him.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think there's a formal one.
Thank you.
That's why there's only 3, because most of them have got the full qualifications.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman-Law. Can I just add to that? In 9.6, we're stipulating that the RYA small craft first aid certificate is required. Is there any reason that we can't put that, as mentioned, the RYA day skippers certificate as a or equivalent?
I mean, we can ask that. I think that will come out in the consultation.
Yeah, okay.
But I think we've got to be careful that it's an informal qualification, because there's no specified standard within the legislation. So the stay skipper is for something, but I don't know whether that reaches the standard that the harbour master would set. But it's something maybe we can ask the harbour master to clarify for us as part of the formal consultation.
Thanks, Nananka. Councillor Hilliard.
Thank you, Chair. The policy as a whole, I'm fully agreeable, but thinking it's going for public consultation, I think just a couple of points probably possibly to add to clarify. So as you said in your introduction, this policy is really for inland, but people will obviously ask about pleasure boats coming to for example, Bournemouth Pier, who covers that remit. So I think it probably is worth saying who does, and just outline a very simple.
What we would do is, when it goes out for consultation, as part of the consultation platform, we would set out a background bit in there, but that's not relevant to the policy document per se. But when it goes out, yeah, we would provide that information for the public for them to make an informed consultation. Sorry.
That's great. And then my other point is, in my ward in Muddyford, there's a ferry which goes from Muddyford Quay to the Spit, and that carries more than 12 people. So it's I thought that would be inland, but is that covered by a different licence? Thank you.
Yes, that's covered by another.
Is it?
Yeah, it's more than 12 passengers.
Yeah.
And again, report in the customer consultation that would say what that licence is covered. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just confirm then, Anchor, that that's covered in para 1, the purpose of the statement. It also says it 1.4, the policy is not intended to cover canoes, kayaks, whitewater rafts, bell boats, dragon boats or similar, as these vessels are covered by guidance issued by the national sports governing bodies.
So is that 1.3? Sorry. 1.4.
That was 1.4.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
1.3 and 1.4, it does state it. Yeah. So anything with 12 or more passengers is more highly regulated. More highly regulated.
I wonder if it might be useful to use that first section, purpose statement section, to just maybe put more than we would usually put, but just to maybe avert questions going forward, because I think there will be limited understanding by generally people. So we could maybe use that section to sort of say what this doesn't cover in a little bit more detail. Possibly it might just be helpful.
So what, amend that to put more information
just a bit more in there.
in the
I just wonder
statement.
if it might just be helpful, you know, next year when after the consultation, you know, when people are looking at the policy, because I think it is the type of questions.
So this needs amending then.
Well, I'm only suggesting that some of the.
Well, obviously we need, if we're going to amend, obviously for
Well, we could find
for this process, we need to agree the wording now before it goes out as public consultation.
Well, no, I agree. We have to do that.
And it's quite difficult when you're trying to think of this.
No, I get that.
What I mean,
I do get that, but I can see where Councillor Hilliard's coming from with the questions and the public, because we can explain. Yeah. Oh, well, yes. Well,
Vice Chair?
Yeah, I was just going to say I totally agree with Councillor Hilliard. I know exactly that, you know, the problems this is going to cause in terms of people are going to look at it and immediately think of the boats at Bournemouth Pier and link it in with the, you know, unpleasant sort of disaster and everything else. It's just to preempt all this sort of thing. And social media is going to go mad. So you know, the more we can, I mean, you know, it probably will anyway. But the more we can do to sort of deflect some of the more obvious concerns that will be raised, the better. So that, you know, it's the Marine Coastal Agency, not the council, because everyone knows that, I mean, anything that floats or flies, it's everything to do with the council. Always is. So, you know, to preempt that sort of nonsense would actually be helpful, I think.
Why don't we do then? We could do agree for the policy to go out to consultation with, well, you know, at the end, but maybe with further amendments to this section, setting out what it doesn't cover, and we could just ask that to be agreed by the chair and vice chair before it goes out. I wonder that
Would members be happy with that?
You happy with that?
yeah, that's fine. I'm quite happy to. We can put in another couple of paragraphs just for complete clarity. This does not cover the following.
I just think we need to have it black.
That's fine.
Thank you. So are there any further amendments that members may have noted? Councillor Farquhar.
It's just an observation in that I think it's implied rather than explicit, and I take Councillor Hilliard's point that it's how the public will view the consultation. It's implied rather than explicit for the hierarchy of the qualification. So if you're on open water rather than inland EGC vessels, then this is not part of the licensing. Consequently, they have a higher level of experience, so they can operate inland and so on and so forth. But and also on the open water, but consultees will not see this. My question, however, is related to the fact that the term of the license is 3 years, and it talks about fees being set, but there doesn't seem to be any mention of fees increasing or a review of the fees, because to my impression it's to cover the administration. However, in that 3-year period, it is quite possible, you identified yourself, that there is only one harbour master in Poole, and also the individuals that we have to administrate this are on vacation, I anticipate, rather than vampire hunting. That it may well be that this council may need to increase the fees, and now that's done in consultation with the taxi associations. But is there an equivalent mechanism in place to review the fees and should that not be in the policy?
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. Annika?
Yeah, so fees are usually separate from the policy, because obviously the policy runs for a set period and the fees are reviewed a lot more regularly. The fees that we charge, we don't consult the taxi trade with the fees that we charge them. They consult with us, and we consult with them with the fares, and the legislation does require a small consultation on some aspects. There's no requirement to consult on the pleasure boat fees. We did agree them in 2022, I believe, and I will be doing a report for the March meeting with a review of all of the licensing fees that are not set by statute, and this will be part of that.
Understood. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Annika. I just have one more question myself. Whether members have any further questions? Do you have a programme date for the 6-week consultation at all?
Yes, it's not as soon as I'd hoped, because obviously we brought it forward to this meeting, because we've got a lot of policy work starting next year, but so have the consultation team, and the council's doing a lot of consultation at the moment. So at the moment they can't fit us in until February, but it will be as soon as they can in February it will start. But that does give us a little bit of time to do the tweaks that we've talked about, and maybe sort of get some agreement for the consultation page as well, sort of landing page before it goes out.
Thanks, Annika. Any further questions at all? Right. I have no formal proposal, but I'm happy to propose from the chair that we accept the policy as presented to go to further consultation in the public domain. Do I have a seconder at all?
Once we've just done the amendment that you, Chair and Vice Chair, will agree.
Yes.
You know.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. All members in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then, members, to item 8 on this morning's agenda. This report is brought to the committee to run through the arrangements for procedure for licensing subcommittees. Jill, are you able to? Thank you.
Thank you. So this report covers 3 issues: the arrangements for attending licensing subcommittees, arrangements for chairing subcommittees, and an updated protocol for public speaking. Firstly, the committee is asked to formally agree the attendance arrangements recently introduced following feedback from members. These are set out in paragraph 5 of the report and include a proposed default position of subcommittee members attending hearings in person for Licensing Act and Gambling Act items. The main point there being that members feel they have benefited from attending meetings in person, even when the legislation and the regulations permit all parties to meet remotely. Secondly, the committee is asked to consider whether it wishes to suggest any changes to the current arrangements for chairing subcommittees. Back in 2019, it was agreed to limit this to the chair or the vice chair, or another experienced member in their absence. The options for amending these arrangements are set out in paragraph 8 of the report and include asking those members interested in chairing to put their names forward. Lastly, reviewing these procedural arrangements has presented an opportunity to streamline the remote and in-person protocols for public speaking into one single protocol, as in practice the two protocols are very similar. However, there are differences in how and when decisions are conveyed to people, depending on the type of licensing business involved. These differences are detailed in paragraphs 13 to 15 of the report and are also clarified in the protocol. The protocol also includes the proposed hearing procedures for taxi hearings and all other hearings to reflect the small differences between the two. So the committee is asked to consider and agree the revised protocol, subject to any amendments that you wish to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Right, I think it might be appropriate if we perhaps deal with these items as they appear on the recommendation. So recommendation A, the committee confirms arrangements for attendance at licensing subcommittees as set out in paragraphs 4 to 6. Is there any debate, please? No, so members happy with the report as presented? Thank you. Councillor Dower.
This is probably not relevant for this, but it's about the location. So at the moment we're meeting in here. What we've tried to do is with the appeals committee, we've moved over to a meeting room in the main building. And with regards to this room, it's looking really old and tatty. And we have to have people in here, taxi drivers or other people. It's not very conducive to have a professional meeting or very welcoming to the public. And I would like us to consider, if possible, Chair, that we look at other locations within the main town hall to host these meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Dower. I think that might be one for Jill.
There's an answer.
I think that's a wider issue. I know there is a programme to look at moving back into the town hall for meetings, but I don't think we're anywhere close yet, unfortunately.
Councillor Moore.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I totally agree with my colleague here. And it would also be nice to have a room that was actually well heated because we've suffered in here. I have had various conversations with all sorts of people, and as I understand it, the request to actually decommission this building quicker than was originally planned is being discussed, probably as we speak, with the chief exec. You know, it's really not fit for purpose anymore, and people have complained about all sorts of things. And we've spent a huge amount of money doing up the main building, and we have 2 beautiful meeting rooms, and we're not using them. And apparently the problem is the tech. You know, this is second-hand tech. It was Christchurch Council's brilliant piece of tech originally. It's moved here, and apparently to move it again into one of the other buildings is going to cause a bit of problem. But we've decided that maybe it's about time that that problem is resolved. So you know, hopefully, if everyone can, you know, if we could actually, you know, support that, it's not just me having a rant. It's everyone having a rant. It might happen sooner rather than later. People have even moaned about the chairs in the corner. They're broken chairs. They're piled up, and you can see them. It's just not good enough, really. We can do better, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. So I think the items in hand. Councillor now. Moving on then to item B, the way that the subcommittees are arranged. I would just like to say as a preface to this item that I think that the current arrangements are working very well, and I've always had the vision that members should be given the opportunity for them to chair subcommittees. I think it's a good platform to work from for and I understand that some members may not wish to sort of step up to the plate, but I feel this gives an opportunity for everybody to, move forward. So I'm happy to propose that as set out. So I don't know if
I'm happy to second.
hello, a seconder. Councillor Chapman-Law.
Yeah, just would welcome the extra training that would be required for that. There's been a couple of times where I've been yeah, it's been quite interesting watching being involved in the subcommittees and watching what goes on, and obviously learned a lot in that as well, just being here. But yeah, some actual formal training would be very welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman-Law. Councillor Hilliard.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that point, the local government association do free training on loads of different topics, including chairing meetings and that. So, and it's free. We pay a subscription. So take that up. Thanks.
Just to confirm to members that we are going to discuss formal training after the meeting's closed. Yeah. Councillor Kiddy.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to echo the sentiment and encourage other members to step up and chair. The notes provided by the officers are very comprehensive. I chaired my first subcommittee a couple of months ago, and it is a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kiddy. Councillor Dower.
I just want to say thank you for the administration, how perfectly and well smoothly it's run. So thank you to the officers and Jill in particular for running it really smoothly and giving us all the support we need.
I'm sure all members will echo that comment. Thank you, Councillor Dower.
Chair, can I just clarify? So you are putting forward that it will be the option is to ask committee members with an interest in chairing subcommittees to put themselves forward either now or at a later date. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. And then agreed,
Yes.
members. Thank you. And then item C, the committee considers amends as required and agrees the revised protocol for public speaking at the licensing committee and subcommittees attached to appendix 1 of the report. Do members have any comments at all? Councillor Farquhar.
If I may, Chair, it's can I ask the question if anything has actually changed, and if so, what?
Jim.
In essence, I don't think much has changed. It was just really to set it out in a clearer way. I think the in-person protocol, in particular for taxi hearings, wasn't necessarily as clear as it should have been. I think we were applying one protocol to different types of business, and I think this just makes it a bit clearer. There's a bit of tidying up, I think, but in essence, I don't think anything. I should have. Apologies, I did not do track changes on the original 2 protocols, and perhaps that would have been easier to identify what has changed, but not very much in essence, because to be honest, it can't. It's just to clarify.
Thank you, Chair. It does feel perhaps smoother and less clunky than before. It may well have been that I was somewhat out of practice chairing, but or I have my own particular sort of mannerisms. But it certainly seems a lot smoother in the way that's laid out here, and gives a very good insight into as Councillor Chapman-Law has highlighted, if people haven't had a chance to observe subcommittees in person, the actual process and the flow and why it works the way that it does. It's actually very well laid out, and my compliments to the officer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Farquhar. Any other further comments or debate? No. Are members happy that we accept the recommendation as set out in C? Thank you, members. Moving on then to item 9 for the forward plan. Can I ask Nananka just to bring us up to speed, please?
Certainly. Excuse me. So we've just ploughed through a couple of the items. Sorry, my thing's not scrolling up, is it? Hang on. It's because I'm pressing the wrong side of the button. Okay, so we've just done item 1. It's the provision of the ranks. Item 2 is the pleasure boats, which we've just agreed the draft policy. and we've just done the administration. So the next items coming up for next year, the statement of licensing policy. And I did do a call out for workshop members, and I can confirm I've got Councillor Dower, Councillor Moore and Councillor Harmon for that workshop. The police will also attend those workshops in the new year, and I'll be sending some invites out for that. So that starts in the new year. The next item is number 5, which is the review of the Hackney carriages. I've got two members interested in the workshops for that. That's Councillor Chapman Law and Councillor Flagg. So if anyone else would like to volunteer, Councillor Farquhar, that's thank you. Oh look, it's a flurry. It's a flurry. Okay, if that's okay, I'll do Councillor Farquhar. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And again, invitations will start going out for those, and those workshops will include the taxi trade as well. At least we're not doing it from scratch, which is what we did last time, so that's quite good. Oh, item 6 is the statement of principles for the gambling policy. I'm not intending to do workshops for that. It's a lot more prescriptive, and Sarah's going to lead on that one, and that will probably be sort of timed towards the end of next year rather than sort of the beginning. And then I need to add, if I can now to add, yeah. We've got new items. The taxi trade have submitted a request for a review of the Hackney carriage fares to come to you. So the fares are what the maximum fare is that is charged within the Hackney carriage vehicles fare chart. They've asked for a review, so that'll come for March meeting. Sorry. And
a review of the non-statutory licensing fees, so licensing act fees which aren't prescribed under the act, and tax fees.
Scrap it.
And yeah, Hackney carriage tariff mark and the scrap metal in 2024 next year. Scrap metal.
So we've got a scrap metal policy that also needs to be reviewed next year. So that's coming up. They've all come up at the same time. You're very lucky. You're going to be very busy. So that's going to be coming up again for review. That won't need a workshop or anything. It will just be very similar to what we've done today with the pleasure boat one. My colleague's going to follow up on that. So I think that's all we've got for the main forward plan for now. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, Annika. I know you're struggling, but I've got a note with regarding the policy for private hire livery.
Okay, yeah, I had hope. So we've in our current policy, we've got a date for the Hackney livery of the 31st of December next year. So all Hackney carriages must meet that policy, that requirement date for the existing vehicles. So anything that's yellow at the moment that meets the Euro 6 and isn't going to be changed has got to be repainted basically. Within our private hire side, we have got a requirement that all private hire has got to be white, cannot be white, obviously because it gets a bit confusing with the Hackneys. But what we didn't do, or we forgot to do, was put a date in for implementation. So what I was hoping for is just to put a minor amendment into the current policy so that it's very clear that the same date as for the Hackney, basically 31st of December next year, all white private hires must be resprayed a different colour.
Thanks, Annika. Do members have any questions at all? Councillor Keddy.
Thank you, Chair. Having sat on a couple of SEV licensing subcommittees, are there any plans to any plans for workshop or training around SEV licensing?
Linda?
There's no formal plans. We're just sitting back, keeping quiet until somebody tells us they want to do a sex establishment policy. And then we will start to work on it. We can do training. That there won't be a problem, you know, doing a training session. We can maybe get that done before we have next year's renewals. We've been through sort of this year, so we could certainly plan something for that if anybody would like to do something. as I said, policy, we're just waiting here, hiding under the table until someone says it has to be done. There's a lot of other ones that we need to do first. And the nighttime economy, yeah, we are just waiting. That was something raised by Councillor Moore and Councillor Flagg after some training that they went on. We are going to be bringing a report. Well, I won't be, but the licensing team will be bringing a report just generally about nighttime economy. So that will stem for there. But part of the statement of licensing policy will raise nighttime economy issues, the police being involved as well, and that might touch on SEVs, etc., etc. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Kitty. My understanding is that an instruction has to come from full council with regards to any future policy. So I'm not quite sure where we are in terms of the administration. I don't know if Councillor Moore might be able to help me out at all on this one, but
I would think I you think I get this right, wouldn't you? However, yeah, I have discussed this with the nighttime economy and SEV training and that sort, and the policy in general with both the leader and the portfolio holder, and they are really happy that we're looking into this and we've got it down as a briefing, because we can't do anything until you actually know what they're actually doing at the moment. So we need the facts, and everything that we do has to be evidence based. So the first thing to do is to get the facts. But they're happy for us to look into this. Okay.
thank you, Councillor Moore. Any further questions at all? No. So members happy then that we note the forward plan? Thank you. Right. There being no further business to conduct, I declare the meeting closed.